Today we're going to play with the legendary mod Kurfürst. Certainly not the most meta pick, the Kurfürst, and especially not legendary mod. It gives you better reload on your main guns and your secondaries, but it reduces your range by a whole kilometer, which is not good if you know what tier 10 is like. But what's required to make this ship work overall, and especially with this build, is a bit of patience, and that's something I lack. I'm really not good with patience in this game. As many of you know, I try to get in there and brawl right away, and often that leads to, well, mixed results. Mostly pretty bad, where my ship goes down just a bit too quickly. In this game, though, we're going to be patient, and we're going to get rewarded for it. And it really goes to show just how powerful these battleships are, even the non-meta ones like a Kurfürst, if they get put into the right situation. And you gotta wait for it, right? It's not a ship that you can force those situations on. So this isn't a game that's gonna happen all the time, but if you're patient, I think that Kurfürst really can work extremely well, even now. You'll notice I'm not even shooting yet. I'm not spotted, so I still wanna have that element of surprise. They don't know I'm here yet. So I wait for the Condi to finally go broadside. That's a part of this whole patience idea, not just shooting anytime I can, making sure I get that right salvo in. And it's not always going to give you 20k in a Citadel, but there's going to be better salvos when you take your time. Not only because of the aiming bugs, right? Like we've been talking about a little bit in some of these Battleship videos recently. If you snapshot or your aim is moving around too much as you're double clicking to shoot, the game doesn't update quick enough. And in fact, there's some, well, things put in place to prevent other bugs that make the aiming a little sluggish. So always try and take your time when you're aiming. Even here, where I had a decent shot at the Montana, and it actually turns out to be I should have shot earlier. I think it was worth waiting to see if the Monty would go bow on to the 1-2 line, and that way he would be broadside to me. We still aim for the superstructure and get an okay 8k damage in. It's not bad, honestly, for an angled battleship. And now that we've seen this early part of the game finished with, right, we know where some of the DDs are, the enemy team has played extremely aggressively, we can get in here and get some crossfires. That's what being patient allows for, assuming the enemy team pushes in, right? That's not always going to happen. But Monty giving us broadside over the island, but, you know, I'm always trying to aim with the mini-map. So we get our vertical aim dialed in with the mini-map X there, and then, yeah, 2 citadels. Like I said, GK isn't always going to work this well, but we patiently found the broadside shot, right? Keep in mind, my team is mostly on the 1-2 line here, at least for people that are supporting and attacking this A-cap. So keep that in mind. This position is only good because my team is so wide, and we get these crossfires in. It's also pretty good here considering the enemy team doesn't really have a lot north of the B-cap. So I could very easily be getting farmed out here if I was in a position where I was spotted and there was just a light cruiser behind one of these islands, right? That's a very common thing for a bow-on battleship to just get farmed out. So keep that in mind. This isn't always just go to this position and you're going to have a good game either. You got to look for those crossfires, and I think waiting a little bit for more of the enemy team to get spotted is really going to help out. It helps identify positions that are good for attacking, and there's going to be opportunities on both sides of the map. So if you can play in a more central location like this, you know, our dispersion didn't work out on the Salem that time, but odds are it's a broadside cruiser. Most of the time you're going to get at least a citadel there. A thunderstorm certainly does help, as you guys can see here. I wasn't really sure what the exact buffs and nerfs that thunderstorms gave, but there's some dispersion tweaks, but more importantly, concealment. I'm playing around islands. I'm not spotted most of the time here until we push out, but there's a lot of surprise salvos, and I think that's something that battleships really need to rely on as well, is getting to those crossfires and then also trying to stay dark, right? Like not being spotted all the time. So then as a cruiser player, you can't always check if that battleship is ready and waiting for you. A lot of times when you're playing this off angle where your teammates are all on one side of the map and you're creating that crossfire, people are not going to really worry about you. As you can see, this Aegir flat broadside, really not paying too much attention to me, partially because I wasn't spotted for a long time there, but also I think that there's a lot of people shooting him from the 1 line, right? So keep that in mind too, is there's going to be opportunities where you get those broadsides, and normally against a broadside ship, they're going to try and angle right away. but there's opportunities where people will just sit broadside and not really worry about you if there's enough going on for them to be distracted or not paying attention, right? Here we're getting into the brawling portion of this Kurfürst video. Wouldn't be GK without a bit of brawling. Soyuz, bow on. We're not going to do a lot of damage with our main gun, so I'm kind of thinking about shooting other targets, right? If that Brindisi pops up again broadside, or maybe that the Salem comes back and I need to shoot him as well. We can just leave our secondaries on the Soyuz, and if we angle reasonably well, he's not going to get a ton of damage in on us. The scary thing here is the DD, right? Where is the Unicum? And that's why I've got my Hydro up, right? Which is allowing me to even push into this gap in the first place. I certainly wouldn't be doing that if I didn't have a Hydro available. But as the Hydro is going down here, we have 40 seconds to get into a position where we're going to be reasonably safe from torpedoes. And that's why I start accelerating a little bit more. And then we see some torps come in for our Musashi, who's probably going to take quite a few of those, unfortunately. But we know where the DD is, right? He's in the south. He's gone around the opposite side of B, and he's in our spawn area. So that's where, again, it's really good to be aware of where the enemy DDs are. We see the Sherman coming up with the HE spam as well. I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. I really just want to help take this Soyuz out. As you can see, we got a pretty aggressive Condi player on our team, so we want to be there to support him as well. Don't want to just leave him out to dry in front of a Soyuz. And yeah, we can take a bit of damage there, but even a somewhat broadside Kurfürst, as you can see, I'm not doing a perfect job of angling here. There's a lot of times where GK armor just kind of absorbs salvos. It helps to have over 100k HP as well, and we're aiming up into the superstructure, doing pretty good damage here. I think that in these brawls, you have the ability to pick spots on the ship to aim for and actually reliably hit them. We did quite a bit of damage to a bow-on Soyuz just into his superstructure, which is a pretty small target for those Russian battleships. At longer ranges, that's not really possible, right? A bow-on battleship, you're not going to reliably hit all your shells into his superstructure. But as you get into closer ranges, I think that it's really good to continue using AP a lot of the time, because those superstructures often take a ton of damage. This is something I'm always doing against Kurfürst, for example. Just look at how massive the superstructure is on this ship. It takes a lot of damage. So, you know, there's something to swapping to HE, trying to get fires, that kind of thing. But oftentimes, I'll just stick with the AP, going for those superstructure full pens, even some overpens. At least with the Kurfürst, right, we're also getting fires from our secondaries. A lot of secondary battleships can rely more on their AP and not have to switch out to the high explosive, because the secondaries will light some fires. Of course, there are ships that HE is just so good that you don't really want to be only using AP, Conqueror, Thunderer, things like this. But on the Kurfürst, I tend to value the AP a little bit more, even though the HE is not so bad. I just don't want to miss out on broadside targets, for example. So we did manage to pick up the Unicum, actually our first kill as the close quarters expert, but we've done quite a bit, and we managed to yoink the Salem at the end as well, and that's going to be the game. This is Kurfürst. It's an old ship that's been kind of power crept, I would say. It's certainly not the best battleship, but it can still work. And if you're given the right scenario and you're patient enough, games like this can happen. And I had a lot of fun playing this one. Bit of a throwback to old World of Warships where you could just kind of sit and brawl it out and have a good time. As for the build, we're very much hoping for maps and positions that we can actually push up into. Notice I've actually even dropped concealment. We're not taking extra healing, and I'm actually running close quarters combat now too. 10% main gun reload is pretty good, especially with 12.5 kilometer secondaries. If you do the build like this, I can understand running some of the accuracy upgrades on main guns too, which will give you 11 kilometers. And I think it's a pretty fun build, although I'm not sure about how good it necessarily is. It's pretty reliant on getting into secondary range, as you can see, but it's a lot of fun. And that's kind of why I have my Kurfürst built like this, because this is a ship that I don't play very much. And if I do, I'm trying to get into that secondary brawling like we had in this match. It's really what I'm looking for when playing this ship. If I want to go main guns, I'm going to do that on a different ship, right? This is more just that close range secondary brawler. As you can see, this is the build I'm running. I was even running the 406s in this one to, again, that main gun reload. And as you saw, it could Citadel no problem. The extra pen you get with the 420s is good, and so is the extra alpha damage, but we had no issues this game. So I kind of value reload these days, especially because dispersion just can be RNG based, and reloading faster is really nice because then you don't have as long to think about how bad that last salvo's dispersion was. But yeah, legendary mod Kurfürst. I don't know if I'd recommend getting the ledge mod or even getting the Kurfürst now that it's a coal ship, but it's pretty fun. And if you're grinding the German line now, the Preussen is a very good tier 10 as well. A few less guns, but you get overmatch and a much faster reload. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.